The stagecoach lurched to a stop in front of a weathered building, and Clara Monroe pressed her trembling hand against the window, peering out at Ash Fork, Arizona, through dust-streaked glass, while wondering if she had made the greatest mistake of her life. The year was 1878, and she had traveled nearly 2,000 miles from Pennsylvania to marry a man she had never met, escaping a past that still haunted her dreams every single night. Her reflection in the glass showed hollow cheeks and eyes that had learned not to hope, not to trust, not to believe that anything good could last longer than a heartbeat. The driver opened the door, and Clara gathered her worn carpetbag, stepping down into the blazing afternoon sun. The heat hit her like a physical force, so different from the cool Pennsylvania summers she had known. Ash Fork sprawled before her, a collection of adobe buildings and wooden structures clinging to existence in the harsh Arizona territory. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks touching a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. Dust devils danced down the main street, and somewhere a dog barked. "You the mail-order bride for Horace Pemberton?" The driver's voice was not unkind, but Clara flinched anyway. She had learned to flinch at sudden sounds, at raised voices, at the approach of any man. "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He said to bring you to his place. It is about 3 miles out of town." Clara nodded, her throat too tight to speak. 3 miles. 3 more miles until she met the man who had answered her advertisement, who had sent money for her passage, who expected a wife. She had written to him honestly about being 23 years old, about being a hard worker, about knowing how to cook and sew and manage a household. She had not written about the scars on her back, about the nights she woke up screaming, about how she sometimes forgot how to breathe when a man's shadow fell across her path. The driver helped her onto the wagon bench, and they set off down a rutted road that wound through scrubby desert landscape dotted with mesquite and prickly pear cactus. Clara gripped her bag tightly, her knuckles white. She had survived worse than meeting a stranger. She had survived her father's fists, her uncle's worse attentions after her mother died, the long years of learning that home was not a place of safety, but a place where you counted the hours until the next blow fell. This could not be worse. It could not be. But her hands would not stop shaking. The Pemberton place appeared ahead, a small adobe house with a sagging roof and a corral that held exactly 3 scrawny chickens. The wagon stopped, and a man emerged from the house. Clara's stomach dropped. Horace Pemberton was at least 60 years old, with a belly that strained his suspenders and small eyes that swept over her with an expression she recognized too well. It was the look of a man appraising livestock. "Well, well," he said, showing yellow teeth. "You are scrawnier than I expected, but I suppose you will do. I need someone to cook and clean, and I have been without a woman for too long." The way he said "woman" made Clara's skin crawl, but she forced herself to nod. She had nowhere else to go. She had spent her last dollar on the clothes she wore. If she did not stay here, she would starve in the desert. The driver helped her down, accepted payment from Pemberton, and drove away without looking back. Clara stood in the yard, dust settling on her dark blue traveling dress, and watched her last connection to the outside world disappear down the road. "Come inside," Pemberton ordered. "I will show you your duties." Clara followed him into the dim interior of the house. It smelled of stale sweat and rotting food. Dirty dishes were piled in a basin, and the floor had not been swept in what looked like months. Pemberton turned to face her, standing too close, and Clara automatically took a step back. "We will be married tomorrow," he said, "but tonight I think we can get to know each other better." His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Clara's vision went white with panic. The room spun, and she was back in Pennsylvania, in her uncle's house, feeling his hands on her, hearing his voice telling her to stop fighting, that no one would believe her, that she was nothing and no one and belonged to him. "No," she heard herself say, the word torn from somewhere deep inside. "No!" She wrenched her arm free with strength born of pure terror and ran for the door. Pemberton's shout followed her, but she was already outside, already running, her bag forgotten, her breath coming in gasps. She ran blindly down the road, away from the house, away from the man who had looked at her like her uncle had looked at her, away from the promise of safety that had turned to ash before it even began. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs trembled, until she stumbled and fell hard on the packed dirt road. Sobs tore through her chest. She had come so far. She had been so desperate to escape, and she had run straight into another trap. The sound of hoofbeats made her look up in terror. A rider was approaching, silhouetted against the late afternoon sun. Clara tried to stand, tried to run again, but her legs would not hold her. She curled into herself, making her body as small as possible, waiting for whatever would happen next. "Madam?" The voice was deep but gentle. "Are you hurt?" Clara could not look up, could not speak. Her whole body shook violently. The rider dismounted, and she heard boots hitting the ground. "I am not going to hurt you," the voice said, calm and steady. "My name is Owen Xavier. I work at the Triple Bar Ranch about 5 miles from here. I saw you running, and I got worried. Can you tell me what happened?" Something in his voice, some quality she could not name, made Clara dare to lift her head. The man crouching a respectful distance from her was young, maybe 26 or 27, with sun-darkened skin and eyes the color of coffee. He wore the practical clothing of a working cowboy, worn denim pants, a chambray shirt, a leather vest, and a hat that shaded his face. His expression held nothing but concern. Clara started, then stopped. What could she say? That she had run away from her intended husband before they were even married. That she was stranded in the middle of the Arizona territory with no money, no prospects, and nowhere to go. That she was broken inside in ways she did not know how to explain. "Did someone hurt you?" Owen asked quietly. "He tried," Clara whispered. "Horace Pemberton. I was supposed to marry him. I came from Pennsylvania as a mail-order bride, but he tried to. I know Pemberton." Owen's jaw tightened. "He has a reputation. You were right to run." "But I have nowhere to go." The words came out as a sob. "I have no money, no food. I do not even have my bag. I will die out here." "No, you will not." Owen stood slowly, keeping his movements predictable. "The Triple Bar is run by a good man named Tom Blackwell. His wife died 2 years back, and he has been looking for someone to help with the cooking and housekeeping for the ranch hands. It is a decent job, honest work, and Tom will not tolerate any man treating a woman poorly. I can take you there, if you are willing." Clara stared at him. "Why would you help me?" "Because you need help, and because it is the right thing to do." Owen held out his hand, then seemed to think better of it and let it drop. "I promise I will not touch you without permission. We can ride double on my horse, or, if that makes you uncomfortable, I can walk alongside, and you can ride." "I have never ridden a horse," Clara admitted, her voice small. "Then I will lead him, and you can sit in the saddle. It will be slower, but we will reach the ranch before full dark." Clara looked at his face, really looked. She had learned to read men, to see violence in the set of a jaw, cruelty in the curve of a mouth. But Owen Xavier's face held none of those things. His eyes met hers steadily, patient, waiting for her decision. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Clara felt the faintest flicker of something that was not quite hope, but was not quite despair either. "All right," she said. Owen helped her to her feet, careful not to touch her more than necessary, and then showed her how to mount his horse, a patient bay gelding named Copper. Once she was settled in the saddle, gripping the pommel with white knuckles, Owen took the reins and began walking, leading the horse down the road at a steady pace. The sun was sliding toward the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold and orange. Clara had never seen landscape like this, all harsh beauty and vast distances. In Pennsylvania, trees had blocked the view, had made the world feel smaller and more confined. Here, the sky went on forever, and the mountains seemed both impossibly close and impossibly far away. "How long have you been in Arizona territory?" Owen asked, his voice conversational, as if he were simply making pleasant conversation and not leading a terrified stranger across the desert. "I arrived today," Clara said. "I left Pennsylvania 3 weeks ago. The journey was very long." "I imagine it was. I came here 5 years ago from Texas. I was looking for work, and Tom Blackwell gave me a chance when nobody else would. He is a fair man, the kind who judges you by what you do, not where you came from, or what mistakes you might have made." Clara heard the story beneath the words. Owen had his own past, his own reasons for coming to Arizona territory. "What kind of work do you do at the ranch?" "Cattle mostly. We have about 300 head that graze on the open range. I help with roundups, branding, taking them to market. It is hard work, but honest. Tom treats his men well, pays a fair wage, and expects us to act like decent human beings. Anyone who steps out of line gets one warning, and then they are out. And you think he would really hire me? I know he would. He has been complaining for months about how the men cannot cook worth a damn, and the bunkhouse is falling apart because nobody has time to properly manage things. You would have your own room in the main house, separate from the bunkhouse where the men sleep. You would be safe there. Safe. The word hung in the air between them. Clara wanted to believe it, wanted it so desperately that it physically hurt, but she had thought she would be safe with Horace Pemberton, and that had turned into a nightmare within minutes. What if, she started, then stopped, unsure how to voice her fear. What if what? Owen's voice was patient. What if I cannot do the job? What if I disappoint him? What if... She trailed off, unable to finish. Owen stopped walking and turned to look at her. Madam, I do not know what happened to you before you came here, but I can see that someone hurt you badly. Bad enough that you expect every person to do the same. I cannot promise that every single person in Arizona territory is good, because that would be a lie. But I can promise that Tom Blackwell is a decent man, and I can promise that I will not let anyone at the Triple Bar hurt you. That is the best guarantee I can give. Clara looked down at him, at this stranger who had stopped his own journey to help her, who was walking miles out of his way to bring her to safety. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Owen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because 5 years ago, I was running from something too. I had just turned 22, and I had made some bad choices, gotten mixed up with some bad men. I left Texas with nothing but the clothes on my back and a lot of regret. Tom Blackwell found me half-starved on the road, brought me to his ranch, gave me food and work and a chance to be better than I had been. He saved my life. Maybe helping you is my way of paying that forward. The sun had nearly set by the time they reached the Triple Bar Ranch. Clara saw it first as lights glowing in the distance, warm and welcoming against the gathering darkness. As they drew closer, she could make out several buildings, a large adobe ranch house, a long bunkhouse, a barn, and various corrals and outbuildings. Cattle lowed in the distance, and she could smell wood smoke and cooking meat. Owen led Copper into the yard, and a man emerged from the ranch house. He was tall and lean, probably in his early 50s, with silver threading through his dark hair and a weather-beaten face that spoke of decades under the desert sun. Owen, the man said, I was starting to wonder if you had gotten lost on the way back from town. Sorry, Tom. I ran into a situation that needed handling. Owen helped Clara dismount, steadying her when her legs wobbled after the long ride. This is Miss Clara Monroe. She came to Arizona territory to marry Horace Pemberton, but Pemberton showed his true colors before the marriage could happen. She needs work and a safe place to stay. I thought she might be the answer to your housekeeping problem. Tom Blackwell looked at Clara with sharp but not unkind eyes. She forced herself to meet his gaze, to stand straight despite her exhaustion and fear. Pemberton, huh? Tom's expression darkened. That man is a snake. You were smart to run, Miss Monroe. He seemed to take in her trembling hands, her haunted eyes, the way she stood as if ready to bolt at any second. Owen is right. I have been looking for someone to help manage the household and cook for the ranch hands. The job comes with room and board, plus $30 a month. You would have your own room, and any man who bothers you answers to me. Are you interested? $30 a month. It was more money than Clara had ever had in her life. Yes, she said quickly. Yes, I would be very interested. I am a hard worker, I promise. I can cook and clean and sew, and I will earn my keep. I am sure you will. Tom's expression softened slightly. You look like you have had a long day, Miss Monroe. Let me show you to your room, and then we will get some food in you. Everything else can wait until morning. Clara followed Tom into the ranch house, acutely aware of Owen trailing behind them. The interior was clean, but clearly lacked a woman's touch. The furniture was practical and well-worn, and there was dust on every surface. Tom led her down a short hallway and opened a door. This was my daughter's room before she married and moved to Tucson, he said. It has been empty for 3 years. It is yours now. The room was small but clean, with a narrow bed, a washstand, a chest of drawers, and a window that looked out over the desert. Clara stared at it, overwhelmed. It was more than she had dared hope for. Thank you, she managed. Thank you so much. You are welcome. Now, let me get you something to eat. Owen, you staying for supper? If there is enough, Owen said. Clara turned to look at him. In the lamplight, she could see his face more clearly. He had a strong jaw, a straight nose, and eyes that crinkled at the corners, as if he smiled often. There was a scar above his left eyebrow, a thin white line that stood out against his tanned skin. He caught her looking and gave her a gentle smile. "You did good today, Miss Monroe," he said quietly. "You trusted your instincts and got yourself out of a bad situation. That takes courage." "It felt more like panic," Clara admitted. "Sometimes courage and panic, it looked the same from the outside." Owen tipped his hat to her. "I will see you at supper." He left, and Clara sank onto the bed, her legs finally giving out. She had survived. She had run, and someone had helped her, and now she had a job and a room and the promise of safety. It felt like a dream, fragile and liable to shatter at any moment. But the bed beneath her was solid, and the room smelled of clean cotton and desert air. Clara let herself take a deep breath, then another. She was still trembling, but less than before. She was still afraid, but not quite as much. For the first time in years, she thought maybe, just maybe, things might be all right. Supper was held in the ranch house's dining room, which was really just a long table with benches in a large room off the kitchen. Clara counted 8 ranch hands, all of them dusty and tired from a day's work. They looked at her with curiosity, but not hostility. And when Tom introduced her as their new cook and housekeeper, they actually cheered. "Please tell me you can make something besides beans and burnt bacon," one of them said, a young man with red hair and freckles. "I can make quite a few things," Clara said quietly. "If you tell me what supplies are available, I can plan some meals." "She starts tomorrow," Tom said firmly. "Tonight, she is a guest, and we will make do with what we have." What they had was beef stew that was more burnt than not, and bread so hard it could have been used as a weapon. Clara ate anyway, too hungry to care. She sat at the far end of the table, away from most of the men, but she noticed that Owen had positioned himself between her and the others, a subtle barrier that made her feel slightly less exposed. After supper, the ranch hands returned to the bunkhouse, and Tom showed Clara the kitchen. It was a disaster, with dirty pots stacked everywhere and supplies scattered haphazardly across shelves. "I know it is a mess," Tom said, sounding embarrassed. "My wife used to keep everything organized, but after she passed, I just could not keep up with it along with running the ranch." "I can fix this," Clara said, looking around. Despite the chaos, it was a good kitchen with a large stove, plenty of counter space, and a window that would let in morning light. "It will take a few days to get everything properly organized, but I can make it work. Take whatever time you need. If you need supplies from town, make a list, and Owen can pick them up next time he goes in." Tom paused. "I know Owen already said this, but I want to be clear. You are safe here, Miss Monroe. Any man who bothers you will be fired on the spot, no questions asked. I run a respectable operation, and I expect my men to behave accordingly." "I believe you," Clara said, and was surprised to find that she meant it. There was something about Tom Blackwell's straightforward manner that inspired trust. "Good. Now, you have had a long day. Get some rest, and we will talk more in the morning." Clara returned to her room and found that someone, probably Tom, had left a pitcher of water and a towel on the washstand. She cleaned herself up as best she could, mourning the loss of her carpet bag with her few changes of clothes. She would have to make do with washing her dress at night and letting it dry by morning. She lay down on the bed, still fully dressed, and expected to lie awake for hours as she usually did. But exhaustion dragged her under, and she fell asleep almost immediately. She woke screaming. The nightmare had been vivid and terrible, a confused mix of her uncle's face and Horace Pemberton's grasping hands and the feeling of being trapped with no way out. She sat up in the dark, gasping, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. A knock on the door made her flinch. "Miss Monroe?" It was Owen's voice, concerned but calm. "Are you all right?" "Yes," Clara choked out. "I am sorry. I am fine." "Can I open the door? I will stand in the hallway. I will not come in." Clara did not trust her voice, so she got up and opened the door herself. Owen stood in the hallway, wearing just his pants and an undershirt, his hair mussed from sleep. He must have been sleeping in the bunkhouse, but he had come running at her scream. "Bad dream?" he asked gently. Clara nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. She was mortified. "I am sorry I woke you. You did not need to apologize. I just wanted to make sure you were safe." Owen hesitated. Do you want me to sit out here for a while? Sometimes it helps to know someone is nearby. You do not have to do that, Clara said, even though the offer made something warm unfurl in her chest. I know I do not have to, but I am offering anyway. Clara looked at him, this kind stranger who had already helped her more than anyone in her life ever had. Why are you being so nice to me? Because you deserve kindness. Owen said it as if it were the simplest truth in the world. Because you have clearly been through hell, and somebody should have helped you a long time ago. And because, he paused, his expression turning thoughtful, because from the moment I saw you on that road, I felt like I was supposed to help you. Like, maybe this was why I came to Arizona in the first place. Clara did not know what to say to that. The warmth in her chest spread, becoming something almost like hope. I would like it if you sat out here for a while, she admitted, just until I fall back asleep. Then that is what I will do. Owen settled himself on the floor, his back against the wall across from her door. Leave your door open a crack so you can hear me if you need to. I will be right here. Clara went back to bed, leaving the door slightly ajar, as Owen had suggested. She could hear him breathing, steady and calm, and somehow that made all the difference. She fell asleep again, and this time, she did not dream. The next morning, Clara woke to sunlight streaming through her window and the sound of men's voices outside. She got up quickly, splashed water on her face, and tried to make herself presentable. Her dress was hopelessly wrinkled from sleeping in it, but there was nothing she could do about that. When she emerged from her room, Owen was gone, but she could see him through the window, working in one of the corrals. Tom was in the kitchen, attempting to make coffee. "Good morning, Miss Monroe," he said. "I hope you slept well." "Well enough, thank you." Clara took in the kitchen. "Would you like me to make breakfast?" "That would be wonderful. The men usually eat around sunrise, but we are running late today." Clara rolled up her sleeves and got to work. She found flour, salt, baking powder, and lard, enough to make biscuits. There were eggs and bacon, and someone had left a pail of fresh milk on the counter. It was not fancy, but she could make a decent meal. An hour later, the ranch hands filed in for breakfast, and Clara served them biscuits with bacon and eggs, along with fresh coffee. The reaction was almost comical. They stared at the food as if they had never seen anything like it, and then they ate with an enthusiasm that made Clara smile despite herself. "Miss Monroe," the red-haired young man said, around a mouthful of biscuit, "you are an angel sent from heaven." "Mind your manners, Charlie," Tom said, but he was smiling. "And do not talk with your mouth full." Owen caught Clara's eye from across the table and gave her a small nod of approval. Something about that simple gesture made her feel steadier, more confident. She could do this job. She could make a place for herself here. After breakfast, Tom took Clara aside. "You did well this morning. The men are already singing your praises. I wanted to talk to you about supplies. Make a list of what you need, and Owen will go into town this afternoon to pick things up." Clara thought about her lost carpet bag, her lack of clothing. "I need supplies for cooking, but I also need to purchase some fabric and sewing materials. I only have the one dress, and I will need to make more." "Of course. I should have thought of that. I will advance you the money for supplies, and we will deduct it from your wages over the next few months. Will that work?" "Yes, thank you." Clara spent the morning taking inventory of the kitchen and making lists. She also thoroughly cleaned, organizing the supplies so she could actually find things. It was satisfying work, the kind that had clear results. By noon, the kitchen looked like a different room entirely. She made lunch for the men, a simple meal of sandwiches and leftover biscuits, and then Owen found her in the kitchen, hat in hand. "Tom said you need supplies from town," he said. "I'm heading in now if you want to give me your list." Clara handed him the carefully written list, then hesitated. "There is also the matter of my bag. I left it at Horace Pemberton's place. It has all my clothes and a few personal items. I do not suppose there is any way to retrieve it." Owen's expression darkened. "I will get it for you. Pemberton will not dare refuse with me standing there. I do not want you to get into trouble on my account," Clara said quickly. "I will not get into trouble. I will just be very clear about what will happen if he tries to cause problems." Owen smiled, but it was not a particularly friendly smile. "Some men only understand one kind of language. Please be careful." "I am always careful." Owen tipped his hat to her. "I will be back before dark." Clara watched him ride away, and then returned to her work. She had noticed that the curtains in the main house were threadbare and full of holes, and the linens needed mending. If she was going to be the housekeeper, she might as well do the job properly. She spent the afternoon working and found herself settling into a comfortable rhythm. This was the kind of work she knew how to do, the kind of work that felt safe because there were clear expectations and measurable results. No one yelled at her, no one criticized her. Tom checked in once to see if she needed anything, but otherwise left her alone to work in peace. As the sun was setting, she heard hoofbeats in the yard. Owen had returned, and he had her carpetbag tied to his saddle. Clara went out to meet him, relief flooding through her. "Did Pemberton give you any trouble?" she asked. "He tried." Owen dismounted and untied her bag. "But I reminded him that a man who assaults a woman has no legal or moral standing to keep her property. He backed down quick enough." "Thank you." Clara took the bag, hugging it to her chest. It felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. "Did you get the other supplies?" "All of them. I also picked up 3 lengths of fabric that the shopkeeper said would be good for dresses." "I hope that was all right. I did not know what you needed, and she said most women need at least 3 dresses to make do." Clara felt her eyes sting with tears. "That was very kind of you." Owen looked uncomfortable with her gratitude. "It was nothing. Just seemed practical." "It was not nothing." Clara met his eyes. "You have been kinder to me in 2 days than most people have been in my entire life. That is not nothing." Owen's expression softened. "You are welcome, Miss Monroe. Now, I believe there are 8 hungry ranch hands waiting for supper, and they are all hoping you will work the same magic you did at breakfast." Clara smiled, and it felt strange on her face, as if her muscles had forgotten how to form that expression. "I will do my best." Over the next few weeks, Clara settled into life at the Triple Bar Ranch. She rose early each morning to make breakfast for the men, spent her days cooking and cleaning and mending, and fell into bed each night exhausted but satisfied. It was hard work, but it was good work, and no one raised a hand to her or spoke a harsh word. The ranch hands treated her with respect, careful to mind their language around her, and always grateful for the meals she prepared. Charlie, the red-haired young man, was particularly friendly, always quick with a joke or a compliment about her cooking. There was also Miguel, a quiet man in his 40s who helped her carry water when he saw her struggling, and Frank, an older cowboy who whittled small figures in his spare time and left them on the kitchen windowsill for her to find. But it was Owen she found herself watching for. Owen, whose presence made her feel safest. He worked harder than any 2 men combined, always the first one out in the morning and the last one back at night. But he always made time to check on her, to ask if she needed anything, to share a few words over coffee. Clara learned that he was 27 years old, that he had grown up on a ranch in Texas before circumstances forced him to leave. He did not talk much about his past, and she did not press him. She understood about pasts that were better left unspoken. She learned that he was unfailingly kind, not just to her, but to everyone. He helped the younger ranch hands learn skills, patiently teaching them how to rope and ride. He was gentle with the horses, firm, but never cruel. She saw him once with a cat that had shown up at the ranch, feeding it scraps and talking to it softly until it let him pet it. She learned that he had a slow, rare smile that made her heart do strange things in her chest. Clara tried not to think about what that meant. She was not ready for any kind of romantic feelings. She was still learning how to sleep through the night without nightmares, still learning how to breathe normally when a man came too close. Owen was patient with her, always keeping a respectful distance, never pushing, and she was grateful for that patience. But she could not help noticing the way his eyes followed her sometimes, warm and attentive, could not help the way her pulse quickened when he walked into a room, could not help feeling safer, more herself, when he was near. One afternoon, about a month after her arrival, Clara was hanging laundry in the yard when a wagon pulled up to the ranch house. A woman climbed down, elegantly dressed despite the dust of travel, with dark hair pinned up under a stylish hat. "Hello," the woman called. "I am looking for Tom Blackwell." "He is out with the herd," Clara said. "Can I help you?" "I am Elizabeth Hartley from Flagstaff. Tom sent word that he was looking for someone to help with household management. I came to inquire about the position." Clara's stomach dropped. Of course. A woman like Elizabeth Hartley, educated and refined, would be much better suited to managing a ranch house than someone like Clara. She was probably here to take Clara's job. "I am afraid the position has been filled," Clara said quietly. "I am the housekeeper. Elizabeth looked her over, taking in Clara's simple dress and work-roughened hands. I see. Well, I have come all this way. Perhaps I could speak with Tom anyway. I will let him know you are here when he returns. Clara turned to go back into the house, but Elizabeth's next words stopped her. You are the mail-order bride, are you not? The one who ran away from Horace Pemberton? Clara's cheeks burned. News travels fast. In a place like this, everything travels fast. People have been talking about you, you know, wondering what kind of woman runs away from her intended husband. The kind who does not want to be assaulted, Clara said sharply, surprising herself with her boldness. Elizabeth had the grace to look embarrassed. I apologize. That was unkind of me. I have been on the road for 2 days, and I am not at my best. She sighed. The truth is, I need work, and I heard Tom Blackwell was a good man to work for. I am recently widowed, and I have no family to support me. Clara felt her anger drain away. She understood desperation. She understood having nowhere else to turn. I am sorry for your loss. If you would like to wait in the parlor, I can bring you some water and something to eat while you wait for Tom. That would be kind of you. Thank you. Clara showed Elizabeth inside and brought her water and some of the apple cakes she had made that morning. Then she returned to her work, trying not to worry about whether Tom would prefer someone like Elizabeth to manage his household. When Tom returned an hour later, Clara told him about their visitor. He went to speak with Elizabeth, and Clara busied herself in the kitchen, trying not to eavesdrop, but unable to help hearing parts of their conversation. I appreciate you traveling all this way, Mrs. Hartley, but as Miss Monroe told you, I already have a housekeeper. She has been doing an excellent job, and I have no intention of replacing her. Perhaps I could work in some other capacity. I am an excellent seamstress, and I have some education. I could teach if there are children in the area. There are a few families with children scattered around. You might talk to the schoolmaster in Ash Fork. See if he needs an assistant. I am sorry I cannot offer you a position here, but I will not go back on my word to Miss Monroe. Relief flooded through Clara, so intense it made her dizzy. She had not realized how much she had come to depend on this job, this place, until she thought it might be taken away. Elizabeth left soon after, and Tom found Clara in the kitchen. You did not need to worry, he said gently. I hired you for a reason, and you have more than proven your worth. This is your home now, for as long as you want it. Thank you, Clara whispered. I was afraid that you might prefer someone more educated, more refined. I prefer someone who shows up every day, works hard, and treats people with kindness. That is you, Miss Monroe. That evening, as Clara was finishing the supper dishes, Owen came into the kitchen. He had clearly washed up, his hair still damp, his face clean-shaven. Got a minute? He asked. Of course. Owen leaned against the counter, not quite looking at her. I heard about Mrs. Hartley's visit today. I heard you were worried about losing your position. Tom assured me that would not happen, Clara said. Good, because I would have raised hell if he had tried to replace you. Owen did look at her then, his expression serious. You belong here, Clara. I hope you know that. It was the first time he had used her given name, and the sound of it on his lips made her breath catch. Owen, she said softly, testing his name in return. Yes? I am glad you found me on that road. I am glad you brought me here. I think you might have saved my life. You saved your own life by running. I just pointed you in the right direction. Owen pushed away from the counter but did not move closer to her. Clara, I need to tell you something. I have been trying to give you space, trying not to push, because I know you have been through something terrible, but I cannot keep pretending I do not feel what I feel. Clara's heart started pounding. What do you feel? I think you know. Owen's eyes were warm and steady on hers. From the first moment I saw you, something in me recognized something in you. I know it is too soon. I know you are not ready, but I needed to be honest with you about where I stand. I care about you, Clara Monroe. I care about you in a way that goes beyond friendship, beyond simple kindness. And I am willing to wait however long it takes for you to heal, to feel safe enough to maybe, possibly, feel something back. Clara stood frozen, torn between fear and longing. She did feel something back. She had been feeling it for weeks, this growing warmth, this sense of rightness when Owen was near. But the thought of acting on those feelings, of letting herself be vulnerable that way, terrified her. I am broken, she whispered. I do not know if I can be what you want me to be. You are not broken. You are hurt, and that is different. Broken things cannot heal. Hurt things can. Owen took a step forward, then stopped, letting her control the distance between them. I am not asking you for anything right now, except honesty. Do you feel anything for me? Anything at all? Clara thought about lying, thought about protecting herself by pushing him away. But she had never been good at lying, and she found she did not want to start now. Yes, she admitted. I feel something. I do not know what to call it yet, but it is there. Owen's whole face lit up. That is enough. That is more than enough. We can start there and see where it goes, at whatever pace you need. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other. What if I have nightmares? What if I flinch every time you get too close? What if I can never be normal? Then we will figure it out together. Owen's voice was gentle but firm. And you do not need to be normal, whatever that means. You just need to be you. Clara felt tears spilling down her cheeks, but for the first time in longer than she could remember, they were not tears of fear or pain. I do not know how to do this, she said. I do not know how to let someone care about me. Neither do I, really. I have never felt like this before. So, we will learn together. Owen smiled at her, that slow smile that made her heart skip. Can I come closer? Clara nodded, and Owen crossed the space between them, stopping just within arm's reach. He was close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, could smell the clean scent of soap and leather, close enough to touch if she dared. She lifted one trembling hand and placed it against his chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady beneath her palm. He covered her hand with his own, his touch gentle, and they stood like that for a long moment, connected but not trapped, together but not smothered. This is good, Clara whispered. This feels safe. Safe is what I want you to feel, Owen said. Always. The summer heat intensified as July arrived, turning the Arizona territory into a furnace. Clara had never experienced heat like this, the kind that made the air shimmer and the ground too hot to touch. But she adapted, learning to do her outdoor chores in the early morning and late evening, to keep the house cool by closing shutters during the hottest parts of the day. Owen was often gone for days at a time now, helping move cattle to better grazing land, or riding the range to check on the herd. Each time he left, Clara felt his absence like a physical ache, and each time he returned, dusty and tired, the first thing he did was find her and make sure she was well. Their courtship, if it could be called that, was slow and cautious. They took walks together in the evening after supper, talking about everything and nothing. Owen told her about growing up in Texas, about his mother who had died when he was young, and his father who had drunk himself to death a few years later. He told her about getting mixed up with cattle rustlers, about stealing to survive, about the moment he had realized he could either keep going down that path or change his life entirely. Tom gave me that chance to change, Owen said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sun set. I will never stop being grateful for that. Clara told him about her own past, the words coming haltingly at first, then faster. She told him about her mother's death from pneumonia when Clara was 12, about her father's descent into alcohol and violence. She told him about being sent to live with her uncle when her father could no longer care for her, about discovering that her uncle was worse than her father had ever been. He told me no one would believe me if I told, Clara said, staring out at the darkening desert. He said I was nothing, that I was lucky he kept a roof over my head, and I believed him. For 5 years I believed him. How did you get away? Owen asked quietly. He died, heart failure, and suddenly I was free, but I had nowhere to go and no money. A friend suggested I try becoming a mail-order bride. She said it was a way to start over somewhere new. I thought it would be my chance at a better life. And instead, you got Pemberton. And instead, I got you. Clara looked at Owen, at this man who had shown her that not all men were cruel, that kindness was real. I got lucky in the worst possible way. Owen reached for her hand, and she let him take it. They sat together in the gathering darkness, fingers intertwined, and Clara felt something she had not felt in years. Peace. As summer progressed, Clara found herself relaxing in ways she had not thought possible. The nightmares came less frequently. She no longer flinched when someone moved too quickly. She laughed at Charlie's jokes accepted Miguel's quiet help without suspicion, and cherished the small wooden animals Frank left for her. And she fell, slowly but surely, in love with Owen Xavier. It happened in small moments. The way he always made sure she had eaten before he took his own meal. The way he fixed a broken step on the porch without being asked. The way he looked at her as if she were something precious, something worth protecting. It happened in bigger moments, too. The day a rattlesnake got into the kitchen, and Owen killed it without hesitation before sweeping her into his arms to make sure she had not been bitten. The evening he taught her to ride a horse, patient and encouraging, one hand on the small of her back to steady her. The night she had a particularly bad nightmare, and he sat up with her until dawn, telling her stories about Texas until the terror faded. In late August, Tom announced that they would be taking a portion of the herd to market in Flagstaff, a journey that would take about a week. Most of the ranch hands would go, including Owen. "Will you be all right here?" Owen asked Clara the night before they were set to leave. "Miguel and Frank are staying behind to watch over things. You will not be alone." "I will be fine," Clara assured him, even though the thought of him being gone for a week made her chest tight. "I wish you could come with us." Owen brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch feather light. "I do not like leaving you. I am safer here than I have ever been anywhere else. I promise I will be fine. When I get back," Owen said slowly, "I want to talk to you about something important. Will you wait for me?" Clara's heart skipped. "Of course I will wait for you." Owen leaned down and, moving very slowly to give her time to pull away, pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. That is all I needed to hear. The week Owen was gone felt like a year. Clara threw herself into her work, deep cleaning the entire ranch house, mending every piece of clothing she could find, and experimenting with new recipes. But nothing could fully distract her from how much she missed him. Miguel and Frank were good company, and she felt safe with them. But they were not Owen. They did not have his smile, his gentle humor, the way he looked at her as if she hung the moon and stars. On the 7th day, as Clara was preparing supper, she heard the sound of horses and cattle in the distance. Her heart leaped. They were back. Owen was back. She forced herself to stay in the kitchen, to finish preparing the meal, to not run out like some desperate girl. But when the men started filing in for supper, she could not help searching for Owen's face. He was there, dusty and tired, but his eyes found hers immediately and his whole expression softened. "Clara?" "Welcome back," she said, trying to sound calm. "How was the journey?" "Long, but successful. I will tell you all about it after supper." The meal seemed to take forever. The men ate and talked about the trip, about the prices they had gotten for the cattle, about the journey home. Clara served and listened and tried not to obviously stare at Owen the entire time. Finally, the meal ended and the men drifted off to the bunkhouse. Tom thanked her for the excellent meal and retired to his room. And then it was just Clara and Owen in the kitchen, the lamplight casting warm shadows across the walls. "I missed you," Owen said simply. "Every single day, I missed you." "I missed you too." Clara set down the dish towel she had been holding. "You said you wanted to talk about something important." "I do." Owen took a deep breath. "Clara, I have been doing a lot of thinking. I know we have only known each other for a few months. I know you have been through hell and probably need more time to heal. But I also know that I love you. I am in love with you, completely and absolutely, and I do not think that is going to change." Clara's breath caught. He loved her. Owen Xavier loved her. "I am not asking you to say it back," Owen continued. "I am not trying to pressure you. I just needed you to know. And I wanted to ask if you would consider, someday when you are ready, being my wife. Not like the mail-order bride arrangement you had with Pemberton. A real marriage, built on trust and respect and love." Clara stared at him, her mind spinning. Marriage. He was asking her to marry him. And unlike with Pemberton, the thought did not fill her with terror. It filled her with something warm and bright and impossibly hopeful. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have been falling in love with you since the day you found me on that road. You make me feel safe. You make me feel like I might actually deserve good things." Owen's face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. "You deserve every good thing in the world. So, is that a yes?" "Not yet." Clara saw his face fall and rushed to explain. "Not because I do not want to marry you, but because I need to be sure. I need to know that I can be a proper wife to you, that I can share a bed with you without fear, that I can give you the marriage you deserve. I am not there yet, Owen, but I want to be. Will you give me more time? I will give you all the time in the world." Owen crossed to her and took both her hands in his. "There is no rush, Clara. We have the rest of our lives. I just needed you to know how I feel, and to know that when you are ready, I will be here." Clara rose on her toes and, for the first time, initiated a kiss. She pressed her lips to his, soft and sweet and full of promise. Owen went very still, then kissed her back gently, one hand coming up to cup her cheek. When they pulled apart, both of them were breathless. "That was my first kiss," Clara admitted. "My first real kiss, given freely." "Then I am honored." Owen rested his forehead against hers. "And I will wait for however many more you want to give." The next few months were the happiest of Clara's life. She and Owen courted properly, under Tom's watchful but approving eye. They took rides together through the desert, Owen teaching her the landscape, showing her hidden springs and ancient rock formations. They sat together in the evenings, Clara sewing, while Owen whittled, comfortable in each other's presence. And gradually, carefully, Clara began to heal. The nightmares faded to rare occurrences. She no longer tensed when Owen touched her. She learned that desire could be something beautiful instead of something frightening, that physical affection could be given and received with joy. In November, as the weather finally started to cool, Clara woke up one morning and realized she was ready. Ready to be Owen's wife in truth. Ready to build a life with him. Ready to stop being afraid. That evening, she found him in the barn, tending to copper. "Owen," she said, "I have an answer to your question." Owen froze, then slowly turned to face her. "Yes?" "Yes," Clara said, smiling. "I will marry you. I want to marry you, as soon as possible, if you are still willing." Owen crossed the distance between them in 3 long strides and swept her into his arms, spinning her around as she laughed. "Willing? Clara, I have been waiting for this moment since the day I met you. Of course I am willing." He set her down and kissed her, deep and passionate, and Clara kissed him back with all the love and trust she had learned to feel. When they finally broke apart, both of them were grinning like fools. "When?" Owen asked. "When do you want to get married?" "How about next month? That will give us time to make arrangements. I would like to be married in the church in Ash Fork, if that is all right with you." "Anywhere you want, anything you want. As long as you are my wife at the end of it, I do not care about the details." They told Tom that evening, and he was delighted. "About time," he said, shaking Owen's hand. "You have my blessing, not that you need it, but I am happy for both of you." The next few weeks were a flurry of activity. Clara made herself a wedding dress, simple but beautiful, out of ivory fabric that Owen bought for her in Flagstaff. The ranch hands were excited about the wedding, and Charlie volunteered to play his fiddle at the celebration. Tom said they could hold the reception at the ranch, and he would personally provide a steer for the feast. Clara wrote a letter to the friend in Pennsylvania who had suggested she become a mail-order bride, telling her about Owen and the wedding and how happy she was. She did not mention her uncle or her father or the years of pain. That part of her life was over. She was writing a new story now. The wedding took place on a clear December day, cold but bright. The little church in Ash Fork was packed with people from the surrounding ranches, all of them curious to see the mail order bride who had run away from Horace Pemberton and ended up marrying one of Tom Blackwell's most trusted men. Clara walked down the aisle on Tom's arm, feeling beautiful and loved, and, for the first time in her life, truly safe. Owen waited for her at the altar, wearing his best clothes, his eyes shining with emotion. The minister performed the ceremony, and when it came time for the vows, Owen took Clara's hands and spoke from the heart. "I promise to love you and honor you for the rest of my life. I promise to keep you safe, to make you laugh, to stand by your side through whatever comes. You are my heart, Clara, and I will spend every day proving myself worthy of your trust." Clara blinked back tears. "I promise to love you with everything I am. You taught me what safety feels like. You taught me that I am worthy of love and kindness. You gave me a future when I thought I had none. I will cherish you and honor you and build a life with you that is full of joy and peace and love." The minister pronounced them husband and wife, and Owen kissed her with such tenderness that Clara felt her heart overflow. The church erupted in applause, and they walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, ready to face the world as partners. The reception at the ranch was lively and joyful. There was food and music and dancing, and Clara found herself laughing more than she had in her entire life. She danced with Owen, with Tom, with Charlie and Miguel and Frank. She accepted congratulations from people she had never met, all of them genuinely happy for her. As the sun set and the party continued, Owen pulled her aside. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Happier than I knew it was possible to be," Clara answered honestly. "Thank you, Owen. Thank you for finding me, for saving me, for loving me." "Thank you for trusting me," Owen replied. "Thank you for giving me the greatest gift of my life." That night, in the small cabin Tom had given them as a wedding present, Clara and Owen began their marriage in truth. Clara was nervous, old fears rising up, but Owen was patient and gentle, letting her set the pace, making sure she felt safe every step of the way. And when fear finally gave way to trust to desire, Clara discovered that intimacy could be beautiful and joyful and healing. Lying in Owen's arms afterward, listening to his steady heartbeat, Clara felt truly whole for the first time. She had survived so much. She had endured so much pain, but she had also found love, real and true and lasting. She had found home. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Owen murmured back, his arms tightening around her. Forever. The years that followed were good ones. Owen and Clara built a life together that was filled with hard work and simple pleasures. Owen continued to work for Tom, but he also saved his money, dreaming of one day having his own small ranch. Clara continued to manage the household at the Triple Bar, though now she and Owen lived in their cabin and came to the main house for work. In the spring of 1880, Clara discovered she was pregnant. She was terrified at first. Old fears about bringing a child into a world that could be so cruel. But Owen's joy and excitement were contagious, and gradually Clara let herself feel excited too. Their son was born in December of that year, a healthy baby with his father's dark eyes and his mother's delicate features. They named him Thomas, after Tom Blackwell, who would become like a father to both of them. Clara discovered that motherhood was both harder and more rewarding than she had imagined. She loved her son fiercely, protectively, determined that he would grow up knowing only love and safety. Owen was a devoted father, patient and playful, always willing to get up in the night when Thomas cried, always ready to help with the endless tasks that came with caring for an infant. In 1882, their daughter was born, and they named her Rose. She had Clara's blonde hair and Owen's smile, and she completed their family in a way Clara had not known she needed. Through it all, Clara never forgot where she had come from. She never forgot the terror of that day when she had run from Horace Pemberton, or the moment when Owen had found her on the road. Those memories were part of her, but they no longer defined her. She was Clara Xavier now, wife and mother, housekeeper and friend. She was strong and capable and loved. She had learned that safety was not just the absence of danger, but the presence of people who cared for you, who saw your worth, who stood by you no matter what. In 1885, when Tom Blackwell decided to retire and sell the Triple Bar Ranch, it was Owen and Clara who bought it. They had saved carefully for years, and with some help from Tom, who gave them a generous price, they became ranchers in their own right. It was hard work running a ranch, but they did it together. Owen managed the cattle and the land, while Clara managed the household and the accounts. They hired a few ranch hands, young men who reminded Clara of what Owen had been when he first came to Arizona Territory, and they gave those young men the same chance Tom had given Owen. Their children grew up strong and happy, surrounded by love and wide-open spaces. Thomas inherited his father's skill with horses and his mother's sharp mind. Rose was fearless and kind, always bringing home injured animals to nurse back to health. As the years passed, Clara would sometimes think about the frightened young woman who had stepped off the stagecoach in Ash Fork all those years ago. That woman had been so broken, so convinced that she would never be safe, never be loved, never be free. But she had been wrong. She had found all of those things and more. She had found Owen, who had taught her what safety truly meant. Not just protection from harm, but the freedom to be herself, to grow and heal and thrive. Safety was knowing that she was valued, that her voice mattered, that she could make mistakes and still be loved. On a cool evening in the spring of 1890, Clara sat on the porch of their ranch house, watching the sunset paint the Arizona sky in shades of gold and crimson. Thomas, now 9 years old, was helping his father with the evening chores. Rose, nearly 8, was playing with the kittens that had been born in the barn a few weeks earlier. Owen finished his work and came to sit beside Clara, taking her hand as he always did. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how lucky I am," Clara said. "About how my life turned out so much better than I ever dared to hope." "Luck had nothing to do with it." Owen kissed her temple. "You were brave enough to run, brave enough to trust me, brave enough to build a new life. That was not luck, Clara. That was courage." "Maybe." Clara leaned against him, feeling his warmth, his steadiness, his love. "But I could not have done any of it without you." "We saved each other," Owen said simply. "That is what love does." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching their children play, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. The desert stretched out before them, vast and beautiful and full of possibility. This was their home. This was their life. They had built it together, brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. Clara had forgotten what safety felt like, and Owen had taught her what it meant. But he had also taught her so much more. He had taught her that she was worthy of love, that she was strong, that she could trust her own judgment. He had taught her that the past did not have to define the future, that healing was possible, that joy could follow sorrow. As the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky, Thomas and Rose came running up to the porch, full of stories about their day. Clara listened and laughed and hugged them close, marveling at these two perfect human beings she and Owen had created together. Later, after the children were in bed, Clara and Owen stood together under the stars. "Do you remember the day we met?" Clara asked. "Every single detail," Owen replied. "You were sitting in the dirt, looking like you had lost everything. But you had not lost your spirit. I could see it in your eyes, the determination to survive. I was terrified. I know, but you let me help you anyway. That took courage." Clara turned to face him, placing her hands on his chest. "I want you to know something. I want you to know that you did not just save my life that day. You gave me a reason to want to live. You showed me that the world could be kind, that people could be good, that I deserved happiness. You gave me everything, Owen Xavier. And you gave me purpose," Owen said, his voice rough with emotion. "Before I met you, I was just drifting through life, trying to make up for my past mistakes. But you gave me something to fight for, something to build toward. You made me want to be better, to do better. You gave my life meaning, Clara." They kissed under the stars, two people who had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, who had built a love that was deep and true and lasting. They had faced their demons and overcome them. They had taken broken pieces and made something beautiful. As they walked back into their house, hand in hand, Clara felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had come to Arizona territory as a mail-order bride, fleeing one nightmare and running straight toward another. But fate, or luck, or divine intervention, or whatever force governed the universe, had put Owen Xavier on that road at exactly the right moment. He had taught her what safety meant. But more than that, he had taught her what love meant. Not the twisted, painful thing she had known before, but real love. Love that lifted up instead of tearing down. Love that healed instead of hurting. Love that lasted. And that, Clara thought as she fell asleep in her husband's arms, was the greatest gift anyone could ever receive. The years continued to pass, bringing both challenges and joys. There were hard years when drought killed the grass, and they had to sell off cattle to survive. There were good years when rain came at the right time and the herd thrived. There were moments of fear when Thomas broke his arm falling from a horse, when Rose came down with a fever that lasted for days. There were moments of pure joy when Thomas graduated from school, when Rose helped deliver her first foal, when the family gathered around the table for Sunday dinners. Through it all, Clara and Owen remained each other's anchor. They argued sometimes, as all couples do, but they always worked through it. They faced challenges together, celebrated victories together, built a legacy together. In 1895, when Tom Blackwell passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 72, Clara and Owen mourned the loss of the man who had changed both their lives. They buried him on a hillside overlooking the ranch he had built, and they made sure his legacy lived on in how they ran their own ranch, in how they treated their workers, and how they raised their children. In 1898, Thomas married a young woman named Sarah Mitchell from Flagstaff. and they built a small house on the ranch property. A year later, they gave Clara and Owen their first grandchild, a daughter named Clara Rose Xavier. Holding her namesake for the first time, Clara felt the circle of her life complete itself. She had gone from being a frightened, abused young woman to being a grandmother, a matriarch, a woman who had built something lasting. In 1900, Rose fell in love with a young veterinarian named Daniel Cooper, who had come to Arizona Territory to practice. He was kind and educated and clearly adored Rose. Clara and Owen gave their blessing, and Rose was married in the same little church in Ash Fork where Clara and Owen had spoken their vows 20 years earlier. As the new century began, Clara was 45 years old. Her hair had threads of silver, and her hands showed the marks of decades of hard work. But she was healthy and strong and surrounded by love. She had 4 grandchildren now, with another on the way. Her children were happy and successful. Her husband still looked at her as if she were the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. One evening in the spring of 1901, Clara and Owen took a ride out to the place where he had first found her on the road. It was something they did every year on their anniversary, a pilgrimage to the spot where their life together had truly begun. They dismounted and stood together, looking out over the desert landscape. It had not changed much in 23 years. The mountains still rose in the distance. The sky was still impossibly blue. The air still smelled of dust and sage. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not been on this road that day?" Owen asked. "No," Clara said firmly, "because you were on this road. You found me and you saved me, and we built this incredible life together. I do not believe in wondering about things that did not happen. I only believe in being grateful for what did." Owen pulled her close, and they stood together in the place where their story had begun. "I love you, Clara Xavier. I have loved you since the moment I saw you, and I will love you until my last breath." "And I love you," Clara replied. "You taught me what safety feels like. You taught me what home means. You taught me that I was worthy of love and happiness. You gave me everything, Owen. Everything." As the sun set over the Arizona desert, painting the world in shades of orange and gold, Clara and Owen mounted their horses and rode home together. Home to their ranch, their children, their grandchildren, their life. They had come so far from that terrifying day in 1878. They had built something beautiful and lasting out of pain and fear and desperate hope. Clara had forgotten what safety felt like, but Owen had taught her what it meant, and in teaching her, he had given her the world. Years later, when Clara was an old woman sitting on her porch surrounded by grandchildren and great-grandchildren, someone asked her the secret to a long and happy marriage. She smiled, her blue eyes still clear and bright despite her age, and she thought about everything she and Owen had been through together. "The secret," she said, "is finding someone who sees you at your worst and loves you anyway. Someone who is patient when you need patience, strong when you need strength, gentle when you need gentleness. The secret is building trust day by day, moment by moment, until you feel as safe with them as you do with yourself. And then the secret is choosing them every single day for the rest of your life." She looked over at Owen, who was 82 years old now, his hair white, his face lined with age, but his eyes still warm when they met hers. He smiled at her, that same slow smile that had made her heart skip when she was 23 years old, and she smiled back. They had been married for 56 years. They had built a ranch, raised 2 children, and watched their family grow to include 12 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. They had weathered droughts and economic hardships, celebrated births and mourned deaths, faced every challenge that life threw at them side by side. And through it all, Clara had never forgotten the gift Owen had given her on that dusty road in 1878. He had taught her what safety meant. He had shown her that love could heal even the deepest wounds. He had given her a future when she thought she had none. That was the legacy Clara wanted to pass on to her descendants. Not just the ranch, not just the property and the cattle and the land, but the knowledge that love, real love, the kind that is patient and kind and enduring, could transform a life. That safety was not just about protection from harm, but about being fully known and fully accepted. That home was not a place, but a person. The one who stood by you through everything, who believed in you when you could not believe in yourself, who loved you not, despite your scars, but including them. As the sun set on another day, as her family gathered around her, as Owen reached over to take her hand, as he had done thousands of times before, Clara felt a deep and abiding gratitude. She had survived horrors that would have broken many people. She had run toward an uncertain future with nothing but hope and desperation to guide her. She had taken a chance on trusting a stranger who had every reason to hurt her, but chose instead to help her. And that choice, that moment of trust on a dusty Arizona road in 1878, had led to this, to a life filled with love and purpose and meaning, to children and grandchildren who knew nothing of the abuse Clara had suffered, who grew up safe and cherished and free, to a marriage that had lasted more than half a century and was still going strong. Clara Xavier, formerly Clara Monroe, formerly a frightened mail-order bride with nowhere to turn, was now the matriarch of a large and loving family. She was respected in her community, known for her kindness and her wisdom. She had built a legacy that would outlast her by generations. But more than any of that, she was loved, deeply, truly, completely loved by a man who had proven, every single day for 56 years, that he meant every word of the vows he had spoken in that little church in Ash Fork. The mail-order bride had forgotten what safety felt like. The cowboy had taught her what it meant. And together, they had built a love story for the ages, one that would be told and retold by their descendants for generations to come. A story of courage and healing, of trust and devotion, of two broken people who found each other and made each other whole. That was Clara's story. That was her legacy. And as she sat on her porch, surrounded by the people she loved most in the world, watching the Arizona sunset paint the sky in glorious colors, she knew that every moment of pain, every moment of fear, every moment of uncertainty had been worth it. Because all of those moments had led her here, to this perfect life, to this perfect love. The mail-order bride had found her home. The cowboy had found his purpose. And together they had found everything they had ever needed, each other.